This is Ilma Separovich. Today I'm here joined with Hannah Bloomberg. We will be discussing Birthright Israel, a trip where students get the opportunity to go visit the country of Israel to explore their Jewish identity and Israeli culture. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about you and your position here?
Sure. My name is Hannah. I am the Senior Jewish Life Associate here, and the cool thing about my position is that it's a shared position between the university and an organization called Metro Chicago Hillel. So Metro Chicago Hillel serves students on 10 campuses all across Chicago. So my staff divides up those campuses, and so I have the privilege of being here at Loyola, and because of the we have a really great relationship with Loyola, and so I'm a part of the campus ministry staff. My focus really is creating community on campus, and that looks different in a lot of different spaces. So we have a lot of smaller communities within the wider community, but I work, when people ask me okay, well, who are the students that you work with? I work with the Jewish students on campus as well as any student who's interested in learning about Judaism.
Can you tell me a little bit about that trip that the group of students went on?
Yeah. Birthright Israel is a really large foundation that sends young adults ages 18 to 32 on a 10-day trip to Israel. It often gets advertised as a free trip, and one thing that I really like to remind students is it's not a free trip. Someone is paying for it. It's just really subsidized by lots of donors, and those donors are different federations all over the country. It's different individuals who really care about the foundation. It's different organizations that want to invest in getting young people to Israel. The trip focuses on developing Jewish identity. That's the goal of it. The whole focus is what is your connection to our different Jewish rituals and different concepts. And so it's really cool because students that go on the trip have the opportunity to travel all around Israel, to learn both from a cultural and historical perspective. When we read in the Torah about Jerusalem, what is the place that we're talking about? What does Jerusalem look like? So getting to go to some of those, the religious sites such as the Western Wall, is really meaningful for a lot of students that go on the trip, but also with a huge focus on the culture in Israel, and connecting to that. So spending time in Tel Aviv, and doing culinary tours and different things that help students to figure out what different connections to Judaism in Israel can look like for different people. I always say that if Judaism, that there are a million different ways to connect to Judaism, and it has to look different for everyone, because there are so many different aspects to Judaism. No one's Judaism looks the same as someone else's. And so I think that Birthright really aims to show a lot of those different paths.
So how do students hear about this trip? Is it through you? Is it through...
It's a combination of things. So some students hear through me. I, as someone who leads trips, also am someone, and because I work for Hillel, Hillel is a huge, I don't like the word recruiter, but I can't think of a better word in this moment. So Hillel is a huge recruiter for these trips, just because when you think about what Hillel aims to do, the goals, the broader goals of this developing a connection to your Jewish identity is the main goal of Hillel, and those are also some of the main goals of Birthright. And so we do a lot of work to connect students to those opportunities. Some of it is from their other friends that have gone on it in the past, and I also this might sound crazy, but it's for the Birthright Israel Foundation is a pretty big foundation, and so it's something that frankly is just on Facebook and is just all over social media, there are different like organizers through the Birthright Israel Foundation that actually do the recruiting and the trip organizing and all the contact with people who go on the trips. And they tend to have a pretty strong social media presence. They excel at that. So I think just like social media, word of mouth, and then occasionally, like when I know that students are interested in going to Israel and interested in working on like developing their connection with their Jewish identity, I'll connect them with the opportunity too.
Yeah. How does this like trip impact students? Like, how do you think that like it'll leave like what at the end of the trip?
It impacts everyone differently.
Yeah.
I think that one of the reasons that it's such a big foundation is because overall we found that like the impact of that kind of trip, like, and this is not just Birthright and not just a Jewish thing, but across the board, like immersive trips and experiences tend to have a really profound impact on the way people see the world, on the way they connect with others. And so I think this is just like one example of those immersive experiences. I think that Birthright is in a lot of ways like designed for students who maybe don't feel as connected going into it. And it's designed as like an introduction, as like a taster plate, like a little bit of everything. So like I said, like get at all of those different entry points into your connection to Judaism. And so I think that, yeah, it impacts everyone really differently. I'd say that some of the most common things that we hear from students is that it really does give them an amazing taste of what it feels like to be part of like a strong Jewish community. It's like a bus of 45-ish people usually, and 10 days spending nothing but 10 days straight with the same 45 people like has a tendency to bond you with those people. And so I think that for a lot of students it like inspires them to come back home and get involved in Jewish communities at home in ways that they maybe didn't previously think were accessible to them.